Hi class, this is our Module 1 Work Together lab. In these assignments, you're going to work with me and you'll have a correct solution as we go step by step through solving some of the lab materials that are in your Zybook. And in later modules, once we get used to this, I'm going to be showing you how to use your Eclipse IDE and how to take these labs and do them in an IDE. Because when you get out in the real world, you're not going to be working on a workbench like in Zoom. You'll be working in an IDE, an integrated development environment like NetBeans or Eclipse. And in Java 2, you'll probably be using Eclipse. So that's the one we're going to use for this class. But for this first week, I want to get working in our Zybook and doing the labs down pat. So we're going to do these together. When you finish them in your Zybook, you'll have full credit for them and your points will transfer right into Canvas. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. This is what you see when you come into the class. You'll go to modules, and in our module 1, we have our working together labs. And I will always be posting a video to accompany these so that you can run them side by side or watch the video first and then try to do the lab, but you'll always have something to reference back. So when you load these, I've got them linked up into the Zybook to go directly where the problem's going to start. And you'll see up here, this section 1-2 is a part of assignment Mod1 Work Together labs. That's how you'll know you're working on the correct item in your Zybook. Just up here, take a look, make sure it says that. This one is a training basics lab that's going to show you what you see when you work on the workbench. So let's go through this. If we take, a lot of times what you're going to see is this is your emulator. This is your workbench down in here where the numbers are. And you'll see it's got 2 modes, develop and submit. As long as you're in develop mode, you can run this, you can change it, you can type in it. And it doesn't grade it, doesn't try to grade it. So develop mode is what you enter when you're working on the program. If your program requires user input, it goes in this box. You'll notice, how do you know your program requires user input? It needs the scanner. So if in any of these, up before the main class declaration, you see import Java utility scanner, that is your key to know that you're going to need to put something down here in this program input box. Now, one thing they do in the Xylabs always is they will give you test cases so that you know what the answer should be if you input something. So up here, if you have no input in this box, that's the first case, and you click the run program, it's going to generate an error down here. It turns red. What? It says no such element exception. And so when you're reading errors in Java, they absolutely positively tell you what's wrong with your code. You just have to know how to decode them. And the top line will tell you where it occurred. It was in the main method, and that there was no such element exception. And then as you look down here, these all were generated from the scanner class. So that's dealing with user input. And the last part usually tells you what line it occurred on. And if I come up here to my code on line 9, I have this scanner reading in the next integer. Well, there wasn't a next integer. I didn't put any input in the box, and you'll notice here it's red. It says your program expects input. So if the code you write needs input, you must import the scanner class, and then you must use the scanner methods to get that input. It's not going to prompt the user for input because this isn't an interactive program. It's a workbench. You will have a box down here to put the input into. So now we know what happens if there's no input. Number 2, let's type 2 into the input box and run the program. Output should be 4. So I put 2 in here, run the program. I do get 4. And this is supposed to, the purpose of this program is to square the input and then end with a new line. New line means carriage return line feed. Okay, so right now I input a 2, I get 4. That's 2 squared. Now let's input a 3. Run your program. I get a 6. That's a problem. 3 squared is 9, not 6. So even though this produces output, it's incorrect output because I know 3 squared should be 9. So if you were to, you know it's a wrong answer, but I know many students will do this. They're just going to submit it anyway. You click submit mode, you submit for grading. I didn't get any points. And it's going to show you what tests failed. And in this case, it input 2, the output was 4, that's correct. But here it notes the output was nearly correct, but white space differs. It's looking for that carriage return line feed, and we didn't have one. Now we look at the second test it ran. It used 12. We output 24. It was expecting 144. So we failed this test too. And then it input a negative 5. We output a minus 10, a negative 10. It was expecting a positive 25 with a carriage return line feed. We failed all 3 tests, so we got 0 points. Okay, so let's go flip it back to developer mode and look at the code they gave us. We're importing a scanner, so we're going to get input. Yay. Here is our class declaration. The only classes that can run are classes that contain main. Main is always public static void main, and then this string, square brackets, arguments, close parentheses, open brace. Line 4 is standard for every program you're going to run in this class. Then we create our scanner. We declare an integer variable user number. We declare an integer variable user num squared. And then user num is read from input. Then user num squared equals user num plus user num. I'm doubling. I'm doing user num times 2. And what they wanted was user num squared. So here's where the error is. How do I fix it? I change that plus sign to a multiply sign. The asterisk, the Shift 8 key. Okay, so now let's run this program after I've made that change. Oh, now I'm getting 9. 3 squared is 9. Let's submit it for grading. 0 out of 3. But look at what the error is here. It's that little carriage return line feed symbol. So the expected output is correct. I expected 144. That's what I got, 25 and 4. So my math is correct. My formatting is not. and I look here on the output line 13, system.out.print. System.out.print prints out whatever you have in the parentheses here, but it does not do a carriage return line feed. If you want a carriage return line feed after this item you're printing out, you need to use the print line method, print ln, rather than print. Print does not do a carriage return line feed. So you could print out things in order on the same line separated by a space using print. But if you need to move the carriage return line feed to a new line, you must use print line. And up here, when they give you the directions, if the directions says ending with a new line, that's what they mean. They mean they want the print line on the final output statement to give you a carriage return line feed. So I know I have the right answer. I'm not going to run it again in developer mode. I'm just interested in if I've matched their formatting. So I'm going to submit it for grading now. And I get all 3 points. As soon as you get to this point and you get those 3 points, though, that will get transferred back to Canvas for your grade. So as soon as you get them here, you'll know they'll appear in Canvas as long as you do it before the due date. If you do it after the due date, you can still work in Zybooks. It won't automatically transfer to Canvas anymore. If you do any late work, which I hope you will not, because it's a headache for all of us, you'll need to tell me you've got late work so that I can manually transfer your grades from the Zybook to the Canvas. If you don't tell me, I probably won't know that. Now, some interesting things about the Zybook and the Zylabs. I get a trail of your work. I know how many times you attempted a problem. I know how long it took you. I know what your answers were and what you got. And then how many submissions, everything that you do in your Zybook, I can see. So I also get lab statistics, and it will run comparisons between everybody in the class to detect plagiarism and cheating. It detects paste into. So if you get some code from some external source and paste it into that window instead of typing it in like you should, it'll tell me that too. So do your own work. Remember, it does not matter. It doesn't matter the grade you get. It matters whether you're learning to do this stuff. And I really mean it when I say, if you start typing out code and you don't know what that line is doing, why you're typing it in, you need to ask. You need to understand why you're doing the things you're doing in order to be a good programmer. Just hacking out code or cutting and pasting code does you no good. Because when you get in the real world, you're never going to get a problem this easy. You're going to be writing unique solutions for unique problems. And the answer is not cut and paste off a Stack Overflow or Chegg. So don't do it. Do your own work. You can do it as many times as you want. You can get your 100. Just learn to do it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Contact me if there are any questions on this. If you didn't get these 3 points, there are 2. If you follow up here, the instructions, you'll get your 3 points. There are 2 corrections to be made. The first one is to change the addition to multiplication, and then to change the print method in system.out to the print line method in system.out. Okay, let's go on to the next one. This is a regular lab. This will look very similar to the labs I've assigned for this module. And it's interleaved input and outputted. Now, I love the auto-graded programming because, you know, if some of you are working and you're doing this late at night, early in the morning, whatever time is convenient to you, because this is an online class, the auto-grading gives you immediate feedback. You don't have to wait for me to grade it. It's going to give you immediate feedback. But there are challenges and things that you guys will usually struggle with are inputs and outputs. And so in an assignment, it'll usually say you're going to enter X, and then you need to print out X doubled is 10 or whatever. And it will show you, it looks like this. This is the prompt, enter X. And then the user would enter a 5, and then the program prints out X doubled is 10. But the program doesn't print out that 5. If you're working on an interactive terminal in an IDE, in Eclipse or whatever, the user types in that 5. So it shows up on the console. It's what the user typed in. What the program actually only ever outputs is the prompt, enter X, and then the solution, X doubled is 10, its result. But our examples will sometimes show this 5. In an IDE, you would be typing in the 5, but remember down here, here's our input. I have line 1, Java Utilities Scanner. That means I have input. That means on your Xylab, there will be a program input box. That's where your input goes. It will not be echoed to the screen. The only thing the Zybook's going to show you is the actual output from the program. Okay, so a lot of times if there's test cases or whatever, there may be some spacing there. If we just try to input this again, remember there's no input here. You're going to get the same error. It's a no such element exception error. It occurs line 9, go up to line 9. That's the scanner next int function. X equals scanner next int. It means it went to the scanner and it went to read in the next int, and there wasn't anything. So there was no such element. So that's why the error is here. And that's okay. That just means you didn't put any input in the box. Okay, so let's put in a number. Let's put in 5. And we'll run it and we'll see what output we get. System.out println enter X. And then this X, this 5 is what's in here. And then X doubled is 10. And that's not what we need. This, you're writing an output statement to echo the input. So we can comment that line out. Then when we run the program, we have the prompt for the user to enter the number. It will read it from our input box and it will output it correctly. And if you go to the submit mode, you should get 2 out of 2 once you've removed that extra echoing of the input variable on line 11. Comment that out. If you just need to comment out a line, it's 2 slashes. Or you can delete it. It'll give you the points. But you should be able to get 2 out of 2 there. Okay, so let's do, I don't want to do this one. You'll notice that in your book, this one will be hidden. It's not, it's in my book. It's not in your book. Yours should only have the assignments that I've given you. So let's work at this one. And notice it says section 1.15 is part of Mod 1 Work Together Labs. That's how you'll know you're always working on the right thing. Okay, so what is our assignment here? Write a program that outputs hello world as shown below. For all labs, end with the new line. Here they've already set up our class, and they've set up our public static void main. And those are the two things we have to have. Every Java program is a class. So there'll always be a class. Now, classes are, the class name is lab program. It's saved in a file named lab program. When you're working on your programs in your Eclipse IDE, your class names must be the names of the file. And then your first line after that needs to be your public static void main parentheses string open square bracket, close square bracket, args, close parentheses. That thing, that public static void main, you'll learn all about what each one of those words means as we go through the class. All you need to know is that line 2 is the thing that runs in your Java virtual machine. So you have to have these 2 lines in order to get Java to even run. And there's a little place here that says, type in your code here. This is what I'm supposed to output, as long as ending with a new line. Do I have a scanner? No, I don't. So there's no input to this program. You don't have that input java.util.scanner declaration up here. So if you're not importing that, you can't use it. So this program has no input to it. It's just going to be an output statement. How do we output in Java? We use the system.out and then all of its methods. When we want to write to the console, we use either print or print line. Print prints out whatever's in the parentheses. Print line prints out whatever's in the parentheses followed by a carriage return line feed. Up here, they tell us we must end with a new line. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the print line method of the system.out class. And then what do I want to output? You must be exact. Capitalization matters, spacing matters, punctuation matters. So that's a capital H in hello and a capital W in world. Exclamation point, end quote, end my parentheses for my print line method, and then end my statement with a semicolon. I already have the end brace for my main method and the end brace for my class. Let's run it. Notice it says enter program input optional. I don't have a scanner class here, so I can't read anything in, so I don't put anything in that input box. That looks exactly like our sample up above here. So I'll click the submit mode. 10 out of 10. I included my carriage return line feed, my new line, by using the print line method. I have the exact wording in quotes. That is a literal string. If you see something in quotes, it's a literal string. The computer's going to print out exactly what's there. And that's what they wanted me to do. the literal string. Okay, so that is 3 labs completely done for you, walking through how to use this zybook lab feature. You have 2 labs to do this week. They're a little bit more involved. In fact, before I leave this one, let's go through and make sure you understand. I don't think that one, nope. I've got many labs and I decide which ones to do. In this one, you are going to, here's sample input, 200,000 and 210,000, because what you're going to calculate is you're going to calculate a summary. It takes 2 inputs, the current price, last month's price. They tell you both of these are integers. Then it outputs the summary of the listing, the change since last month, and the estimated mortgage, and it gives you the formula for it. So if you look at this, you have many strings here. You have this house is $. You print that out, and then you're echoing this 200,000. And then you're printing out a period. The change is $. This is another literal string, period, to that $. Then this value is what? It's this month's price minus last month's price. The change is minus $10,000 since last month. The estimated monthly mortgage is, now notice that this is printed on 2 lines. So this would be a print, a print, a print, and then this part is a print line, because then you'll get the carriage return line feed after the period. Then you're ready to print out your next line. This is a string. In fact, go all the way to the $. This is a literal string. And this is the output of a variable calculation. You've got the formula right here. Just plug it in. In fact, you can just use that formula. It'll evaluate. You don't even, you do notice there isn't, if they ask you for the estimated monthly mortgage payment, but they didn't give you a variable for estimated monthly mortgage payment. That's your first clue that you just need to plug in this formula into your print line statement and have it calculate that. And then you're going to have to make sure you get that period in the end. And then this one, this is going to have a bunch of print line statements because we haven't learned about loops yet. This is the first line that gets printed. There's a base character here that prints out the base of the arrow, the zeros. I can't get just the zeros. And then there's a 1 that prints out the 1 part, the head of that arrow there. So any place you want a 0, you print out base char. Any place you want a 1, you print out head char. So the first line of the output, but you got to print out the spaces too. How many spaces? We'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blank spaces, and then a head char. And then what's the next line you print out? 5 blank spaces, and then 2 head chars. And then what's the next one? Well, this one isn't blank spaces, it's base chars. So you need 5 base chars and then 3 head chars. And then 5 base chars and then 4 head chars. Now, when you get to this point with the 4 head chars, you could just cut and paste the ones above. It's just repeating. So you've already typed in this one. Just repeat it down here. take this line, repeat it there, and take the first line and repeat it there. So you don't have to do so much typing, but just do each line individually. Make sure you get the right number of spaces. In developer mode, go ahead and print it out, incrementally print it out. Make sure you're getting that arrow. Try it with different values, because when it runs its tests, it'll input 0 and 1, but then it's going to input things like star and 8. It's going to make sure that you cannot put the number 1, the string 1, that value in there. You have to use these variables so that if the user changes the input down here, that the arrow reflects what the two symbols that the user input, not just zeros and ones. So don't hard code zeros and ones. Use base car and head car in your output statements. Okay, if you have any questions at all about either this Work Together lab or the 2 labs you've been assigned, get a hold of me. I know this is the first week of class. Things may be confusing. I am happy to help you. Hopefully this will be the routine we'll follow for the next 8 weeks. I'll include at least 1 video for you to walk you through some stuff or give you additional examples. But the goal here is for you to work through your Zybook. I would work through stuff until you at least get a 90%. If something gets tricky, you can always get a hold of me. I'll help walk you through it. But you can keep on working on that Zybook until you get 100% on it. And then do the stuff where we work together, so I can point out things, maybe go through the labs and give you some hints on how to solve them, and then solve your 2 labs. And if you get stuck, if you can't get that 10 out of 10 on a lab, get a hold of me. I'll help you, because remember, the goal of this summer is to learn to program, and it's my job to help you do that. So I will see you next video, and again, please feel free to get a hold of me if you get stuck or need clarifications. I am happy to help. See you next week.